Hey there, BookTube. Noah. Everyone who reads it must converse is the channel. Today I'm adding to the Buddhism from a Western Perspective series by uploading a, a reading of what I'm about to analyze in this video. So it's not a complete reading. I'm reading about half of it and pulling out the kind of things that I want to expound on because um, the perfections in Buddhism, which is actually the practice, the actual practice of bodhisattvas in Mahayana Buddhism, it is very kind of hard to wrap your head around uh, how one might practically go about practicing something that is an infinite thing, right? How would how do you do this? How is it infinite, anyways? Um, So, this is the Bodhicharya Avatara of Shanti-Deva, which is loosely translated into the Path of Light. And this is a translation by L.D. Barnett. It's a very this is the first English translation of this text, and it is without commentary. That's what I really like about it, is that, it's a good translation. It's not perfect, but it is without commentary and without any kind of trying to clarify or explain anything. And it is very beautiful. So I'm going to touch on chapter 6, which is called The Perfect Long Suffering, and it is an exploration of the perfection of patience, practicing the perfection of patience. Shantideva was a monk that lived in a monastery, which is more like a university, what we would think of as like a university, called Nalanda. And it was gigantic. Tens of thousands of monks lived and practiced there, and they held debates all the time. They we're just furthering a spiritual understanding, or what their understanding of reality was. And this was around medieval times. Our understanding of medieval times. So it's like 12th century, maybe 11th, 12th century. That's just my guess. I'm not completely sure. So let's just go into it. And it says, starting off, things like that pay every good thing, every merit that you might have gained in your lifetime is destroyed by ill will. It's destroyed by anger, and destroyed by your own emotional life getting in the way of your progress as far as uh, care, patience, happiness, kindness to others, all this kind of thing. What gets in the way of that is our emotional life. In short, there is no way for a passionate man to find happiness. Being passionate there is not just passionate. What he means by there's no way for a passionate man to find happiness. There is no way for an emotionally driven being to find happiness. You don't find happiness if you are blown this way and that, and if you are driven by your emotions. Emotions give a certain understanding to us in reference to ourselves and in reference to what we see, but it is only part of the story of the experience that we're having, and it is to be used for our benefit. Our emotional life should benefit us. Um, and there's different varying degrees of emotional immaturity or maturity, and you can be very mature in some ways and emotionally immature in other ways. It's just what kind of experiences you've had and your reactions and the kinds of tracks that are laid down within you when you come into a certain emotion. There's a tendency always to repeat a previous reaction to, or something like that, right? He says straight up, I will cut off the nourishment of my enemy. The enemy is hatred. The enemy is ill will towards others. I will cut off the nourishment of my enemy, for its sole purpose is to slay me, to take you down into a hell, right? What profits discontent if there's a remedy, and what profits discontent if there is none? That is a very smart, kind of way of looking at it. That if you're mad and discontented with things, the fact of being upset and mad about something, there is no profit in that for you, whether you can change it or not. You do something about it, or you make moves to do something, or you don't. Either way, the inner life being discontented, upset, mad, angry, those kind of things don't profit you ever at all. It is just fine, and it is much better if you can actually be okay with it, and be contented in your pain or suffering, in something that is making you making you upset. It doesn't have to make you upset, and this kind of thing is what he's getting at. There is nothing which practice cannot make easy. So we practice in slight sufferings, and then we learn to bear great pains. And then he's talking about flies, gnats, bugs, miseries like being cold, thirsty, these kind of things. Those kinds of little inconveniences are how we practice. Not becoming discontented to a point where you're reactive to those little pains and miseries, but bearing them, consciously choosing to bear it and use it as practice for greater sufferings, which we know are coming, right, in our life. Because we are alive, we're going to get sick or something. We're going to, eventually pass away. These kind of things. And remaining in a state of acceptance and love in those kind of ways, the only way you can do that is to practice with slight sufferings, small sufferings, and not getting it, so there's nothing which practice cannot make easy. I love that. As a bodily pain arises unwilled, so too wrath arises unwilled in the offender. So, talking about emotions in a person who is not practicing this kind of thing that we're talking about, not practicing patience, just a normal person, that anger arises unwilled, right? They don't want to become angry. And that's why when people do become angry, they constantly will point the finger at outside of themselves as, that made me angry, you made me angry, he made me angry, she made me angry, this person has done this to me. When anger does not come at you from the outside, it doesn't exist out there. Anger rises up from within. You become angry. You don't go toward something and anger comes at you, and you just have to bear the anger. Anger comes up from within. To bear that out is the next kind of thing. The primal matter, quote unquote primal matter, or soul, quote unquote soul, of which men talk about are imaginations. They do not come into being with consciousness of doing so, like anger. If its own action is the bond between soul and object, what is the ground of that? Thus everything depends on a cause, and the cause likewise is not independent. So in no way then can wrath be felt against beings as mechanical as phantoms. Now, the beings that are talked about right there are unenlightened, everyday people that are not practicing virtue in any kind of way. They're just going about their life. So if it is natural for somebody to become angry when somebody is being mean to them, and anger is this kind of reactive thing that in social situations and in the world keeps everything from falling into chaos, because nobody wants to anger another person to where they get a reaction and get in a fight, something like this. So it keeps people in check. All the regular people that are not practicing any kind of spiritual path work, it keeps them from pushing each other and this kind of thing. So these people are just that they are just doing what it is that is natural for them to do. There's no judgment on them for that. That is exactly what anybody would do, how anybody would behave if they're not doing spiritual path work and really trying to practice virtue in this kind of way. And it's not everybody's time for that kind of thing. There's not any judgment on this kind of differentiating between different people. And we're going to bore that out a little bit more in this, because these are spiritual practitioners, monks, that are speaking about it. So this is the frame of reference there. So talking more about non-practitioners, maddened by passions, by their emotions, striving for their own destruction, there can be only pity for them. How should we be angered? If it is the nature of fools to hurt their fellows, then it is wrong for me to feel anger against them, as it is to be wrought with fire that naturally burns me. And if again it is a passing frailty, and creatures are upright of nature, and then it is wrong for me to be angered against them as against the air when smoke fills it. So there's two images. One is like if the natural man, natural human beings, are they inherently just complete fools and no virtue to them? If so, then it is a natural state that they become angry like this, and you don't hate them or become angry at them for it, because that's like becoming angry at the fire for burning. It is a natural state of them, right? And if it is a passing frailty, and they are virtuous and upright, generally upright in nature, and it is a passing frailty, then it is as wrong to be angered against them as mad at the air when smoke fills it. Because the anger is a normal byproduct of being human. The anger that is in the person. And then when it comes down to it, the passions are natural. So you don't become angry at them for having passions, because this is part of their own path work, part of their own life, and we at the deepest, to somebody who is in a bad spot, you feel pity for them. But if they're just, normal people going about their life and stuff, well, you just love them where they're at and treat them with kindness. This is more talking about how people have misunderstandings about patience and how to practice it. Quote, I hate him who speaks to my blame, for he brings creatures to destruction. That somebody who's sitting there blaming others is just a bad person, doing bad, unskillful speech and unskillful activity. So it's, that I hate him for it, right? Then why are you not angry against him who rails at others that are in the wrong? You bear with unkind people when their unkindness touches others, but you don't bear with the cavalier who touches on the growth of your own vices. And so that is a tendency of when people are speaking poorly of you personally, you want to fight against it. You know what I mean? You want to fight and say, at least, even if it's true, everything they're saying, you want to say, you shouldn't be saying this kind of thing about me. You shouldn't be putting me in this kind of place because I am just, I can make mistakes like anybody else. And it's wrong of you to speak these kind of words and actually hate them for that because they're being, being a bad person, quote unquote, whatever, right? But when it comes down to it, if somebody is speaking bad of people that we collectively, know is bad, and just nailing them and not giving them any kind of understanding or just understanding that that kind of state is something that deserves to be pitied. That person is hurting. That person is in a hell, which is why they're manifesting hell outside of themselves. If that kind of thing is happening, people are more than willing to say, yeah, and champion that kind of activity. It's the same thing. It really is the same thing. When you're talking ill and speaking poorly about a human being, another human being. So it goes into more why there should be patience about people who don't believe the same spiritual tradition or things like that as you do, because it's not, nobody is hurt by this. Only the only person that you can hurt really is yourself. That it is impossible to hurt other people if they can, because they have to identify with that and allow that. And now I'm not talking physically, because of course you can cause pain to other people and things like that. But I'm saying you cannot hurt somebody else inside unless they allow you to do that. So, and the reciprocal of that is that you cannot be hurt by somebody unless you allow them to do that. And so the blame for these kind of things is always two ways. It's always two. And the judging and pointing at one or the other as the only and sole reason for it is a block into growing and a block to getting stronger within yourself, spiritually speaking. And this is a very high-minded look at patience. I understand that, right? It is a very lofty idea of patience, but when it comes down to it, another way of looking at this is, quote, "Nay, I'm glad because my neighbor is pleased with me," unquote. But what is it to me whether my neighbor is pleased with me or with another? The joy is his. Not the smallest share of his joy is mine. If happiness springs within me from the joy of others, then I should have it in every event. So why am I not glad when men rejoice and honor other people, when they rejoice and honor each other? Then gladness arises within me only because I am praised. And thus, being foreign to myself, it is an utter child's play. So that is saying, the whole thing of, if somebody is sitting there praising another person that you don't even know, or even a person that you might not like, then that praise doesn't bring you any happiness or joy or anything like that. You might even not like it, right? Have that kind of emotional reaction to it. But if somebody praises you and even praises you for something that is very, very small, that might not even deserve praise in that kind of way. If somebody does that, you rejoice in that. It brings you so much happiness. And So there's all these kinds of ways that shows selfish, self-referential, emotional responses. And those kinds of things are exactly what the where the work comes in to furthering the practice of patience and your ability to be patient with others and that kind of thing. There is quite a bit left in the reading that I gave that I'd really like to go into a little bit more, but it's tough to to work into it. But suffice it to say that the enemy, the one who brings to you things that you don't like, whether that be gossip, whether that be hateful speech, whether that be a person that really gets on your nerves in the least, or somebody who is actively an enemy to you in the most, that person is a welcome and should be treasured by you, because without somebody who makes you upset and without somebody who pushes you like that, you can't practice patience. You cannot have patience with something that you love. You cannot have patience with something that you enjoy, right? All patience comes from coming into contact with things that we don't like, with things that are painful, harmful, suffering. They cause us suffering within ourselves and things like that. That's what causes patience. And those things deserve highest honors within ourselves. It's tough to wrap your head around, I know, but I love the practice of patience, and that kind of thing is very, very fruitful. To just go at this kind of thing um, a little bit at a time. Try it, and see if you don't grow within yourself and and have a lot of peace. So I am uh, uploading a video that is also the reading right now. Check it out. I'll have a link in the description box between the two videos. So whoever listens to one can then watch the other and vice versa. Thank you very much, BookTube. Give me any thoughts or ideas that you have, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye bye.